Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Microsoft 365 Community Conference sponsor webinar series. I'm Ella Fernandez, Head of Connections at BTechly, and I'm pleased to introduce our sponsor for today, CloudFuze. Today's session focuses on the migration to governance, how to maximize Microsoft 365 with CloudFuze. But before we begin, here are a few reminders. To join the live Q&A, you'll need to register for the webinar. If you haven't registered yet, simply scan the QR code on your screen or visit btechly.com, select today's session, and enter your business email. Once you're registered, our team will add you to the calendar invite, which includes a link to join the Q&A chat at the end of the session. Please note that the Q&A is not live streamed. Don't miss your chance to save on the Microsoft 365 Community Conference happening April 21st to 23rd in Orlando. Standard discounted pricing and soon, so scan the QR code on your screen right now to register or visit nextgen365events.com and use the discount code S150 to save $150 on your registration. Apply for the Microsoft 365 Community Grant Program by scanning the QR code on your screen, or learn more about it by visiting change3e.com/grants. So that is GRANTS, grants, built for small businesses and nonprofits to help you accelerate your AI journey with hands-on learning, expert guidance, and financial support to attend M365 Con 26. And of course, please like, subscribe, and follow both BTechly and Microsoft 365 Community Conference. With that, let's get started and make the most out of today's learning session.
Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Anthony Raymond, Head of Strategic Partnerships here at CloudFuze, and I'll be your moderator for today's session. What we're going to cover today is something we're seeing across nearly every organization that we work with, not just how to migrate to Microsoft 365 successfully, but how to implement and continue proper governance of that environment after migration, especially in the era of AI. So let me start with a quick story that really sets the stage. We worked with the CIO. It was a large global organization, very complex environment, and by all traditional measures, their migration was a success. Data migrated on time. There was no downtime, full fidelity. In other words, permissions, versions, collaborations were all kept intact. From a migration standpoint, everything went exactly to plan. But about 60 days after go live, the CIO reached back out to us. And the issue wasn't migration anymore. It was what came next. As they started preparing for Copilot, they realized there was widespread oversharing across SharePoint and OneDrive. Sensitive data was now searchable and exposed through AI. Shadow IT and unmanaged apps were still active, and there was no centralized way to govern or control it all. So what had been a successful migration quickly turned into a governance and risk challenge. And that's the shift happening in the market right now. Migration's no longer the finish line. It's the starting point for governance, security, and AI readiness. And that's exactly what we're going to walk through today. Today's session is about that full lifestyle, from migration to governance to AI readiness in Microsoft 365, and how CloudFuze supports that journey end to end. So for a little bit of a company overview at CloudFuze, our mission is to deliver secure, scalable intelligence solutions that help enterprises maximize efficiency and reduce risk. We've been doing this for over 10 years now, and we're recently featured in a Gartner Research Market Guide for M365 governance, and also very happily won a Google Partner of the Year in 2025 for technology impact. More importantly than all that, we've evolved over the years. Now, before we go deeper into the platform, I want to bring in someone who's been at the center of this evolution. Ravi Poli, founder and CEO of CloudFuze, has worked directly with large organizations, enterprises navigating some of the most complex migrations and transformations in the market. Ravi, would love for you to come on stage and join us to share.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, Anthony. And thanks everyone for joining us today. So when we started CloudFuze almost like 13 years back, the kind of entire landscape, IT landscape was different and customers' problems were different. A lot of the customers were at that time trying to move a lot of their on-prem workloads into cloud platforms like Microsoft 365 or Google Workspace. So over the years, we solved a lot of these customers' problems. As you can see on the screen, 1,500 plus large customers, and we migrated more than 15 billion plus files. And we consistently are always rated high in Gartner reviews. And you can see some of the customers, known customers of ours. So we started doing that. And in the last 2 years, I'm sure everybody knows that there was a huge AI evolution is happening from the last 2 years. So customers started to ask questions about their content. What's happening with my content? What's happening with our content? Is AI accessing our content properly? Is my co-pilot accessing our content properly? Are there any security risks in that? Is Copilot accessing any sensitive data? And also, like a lot of the apps that are connected to the Microsoft environment, that has like content and then like maybe your messages and all of that, are they accessing properly or not? So the migration problem become a governance problem. So that's when we started collaborating with a lot of our large customers, and we built very focused M365 governance tools along with managing all other SaaS applications for our enterprise customers. We call that tool as CloudFuze Manage, so which takes full governance of M365 under control. So CloudFuze migrate all the workloads from anywhere into Microsoft 365 environment, whether it can be an email, whether it can be content, whether it can be messages. And then CloudFuze manage to, once you migrate, an ongoing governance to make sure that your security risks are reduced, your content is safe, it's not shared with external parties that they don't need to have access to, and also proper controls and policies are in place. So these are the two products that we are working with customers now, from migration into governance. So that's how we evolved into CloudFuze Manage.
Thanks, Ravi. I really appreciate that perspective. What Ravi highlighted, it's something we're constantly hearing. Migration's now expected. Governance and control are where organizations are either going to succeed or struggle, I think is what summarizes what you stated there. To take a little bit of a deeper dive into the products, CloudFuze, as Ravi mentioned, delivers our solution through two core platforms. So we have CloudFuze Migrate, an enterprise-grade migration platform, migrates content, email, messaging platforms, and more with full fidelity, including metadata, permissions, embedded links, and CloudFuze Manage. It's a unified SaaS and AI governance platform and provides critical visibility, control, and automation across your environment. Together, this gives organizations a continuous lifecycle approach rather than a one-time migration event. So now I'm going to take a little bit of a deeper dive into our migration capabilities. So when it comes to Microsoft 365 migration, CloudFuze provides full coverage across OneDrive, SharePoint, Teams, Outlook. But the key differentiator, especially at enterprise scale, is depth. So we preserve versions, permissions, shared links, metadata, even embedded links across documents. We're able to migrate and fix as they come into your M365 environment. reducing, drag and resources on users to clean up those links manually post migration. On the collaboration side, when it comes to messaging platforms like Slack or Google Chat and bringing that into your team's environment, or just consolidating teams, we migrate channels, threads, full DM history. So we're able to save all of the context of your important channels and communications, regardless of where they're stored. In addition, we also migrate email, calendars, contacts, and more, all migrated with full business context intact. Moving on to transition to governance, this is really where the conversation shifts from migration to what really matters next. As organizations move towards Copilot and more AI-powered workflows, the biggest challenge is no longer moving the data, it's understanding it, securing it, and governing it at scale. And this is exactly where we're seeing organizations struggling the most. So to go deeper into this and to actually show how this works in practice, we want to bring someone who leads this area for CloudFuze onto stage. So if we can bring Pranavi on stage, who's the product lead for CloudFuze Managed and has been working directly with customers to solve some of these governance challenges inside M365 environments. So I'll pass it over to Pranavi now for a couple slides and a demo.
Yeah, thanks, Anthony. Thanks for the overview on the migration side of things. So I'll move on to the governance side of things. So that problem Anthony just shared at the beginning of the webinar, right? The CIO's experience. It's not just an isolated case. It's playing out at scale across enterprises right now. And the data actually backs that up. If you look at these numbers on the slide, according to Microsoft's own security research, 73% of enterprises have overshared content that they don't even know about. Right? Think about that for a second. Nearly 3 out of 4 organizations have files, folders, SharePoint sites that are accessible to people who should never have access to them, right? And when you layer Copilot on top of that, Gartner's research shows that it's a 10x increase in sensitive data exposure once Copilot is deployed. So that's not because Copilot is doing something wrong. It's because Copilot is exactly doing what it's designed to do, right? It surfaces content based on the permissions that already existed. And 59% of IT leaders say data governance is their number one blocker to deploying Copilot. So it's not adoption, not the budget, it's governance. So organizations are kind of stuck in a lose-lose position there. Either you deploy Copilot or you lose that competitive edge, or you deploy it blind and create some serious compliance risk for you there, right? So what actually is the risk that I'm talking about? So Copilot can surface sensitive HR documents, your financial records, legal files, right, through a simple natural language query. And most of your data, your M&A data, your salary information, customer PII information, right, things that were quietly sitting in overshared folders for years suddenly become findable by anybody in the organization with a Copilot license. And the underlying cause is something that we call as a permission sprawl. So years of overshared folders, anybody can access links, some broken inheritance chains. So these weren't necessarily mistakes as such. So they just accumulate over time. So now they're under active exposure points the moment AI enters into the picture. So the question here becomes, how do you get your M365 environment Copilot ready? And how do you do it fast enough for you to realize that value of AI? So that's exactly what CloudFuze Manage was built to solve. That's the governance crisis we're solving for. So we have 4 important components specifically designed to take an organization from its current state, whatever that is, to a governance posture that is secure, auditable, and Copilot ready. So one being the discover and audit phase. So before you fix anything, you need to see what is there, right? So CloudFuze does a deep scan across your entire M365 environment, your SharePoint, your OneDrive, and it maps every overshared permission, every stale access grant that was granted and then forgotten about, every sensitivity exposure point. And most of our customers, most organizations are really and genuinely surprised by what we find there. So once you know what is there, now the next step is to act on it, right? So then comes a remediate and enforce point. So CloudFuze automates permission cleanup with a policy-based enforcement. So your sensitivity labels can be applied, your accesses can be revoked, you can fix those inheritance breaks, not one file at a time. You could do it across thousands of items in days, not months. So if you have to do that same process manually, it'll take you a couple of months, or I'll say up to a year or two if it is if it is in a big enterprise. But you could do all those items in matter of days. So here's something that's often overlooked in the governance conversation. We only talk about data and content, but while you're securing your M365 environment, employees are also connecting to unauthorized SaaS apps and AI tools to your tenant, right? So tools that didn't go through any approval processes, agents that operate without any oversight. So CloudFuze also identifies that kind of sprawl before it becomes a security and a compliance liability. And when we talk about governance, you can't talk about it like a one-time project. It needs to be embedded into how your IT operations work, right? So that means your automated workflows for your onboarding, offboarding users, your license reclamations, or any approval flows, or any access policies, everything that needs to be executed end to end without any manual IT intervention every time. So you need to focus on these aspects as well. And the bottom line we hear consistently from the customers is organizations try to get a Copilot ready state without typically looking into these pre-governance checks, and it'll take them up to 6 to 12 months. But with CloudFuze Manage, what we aim to do is we compress that timeline to within weeks. So that's the difference between being ready for the AI era and still preparing for it. Right. So, all right, let me stop sharing the slides and pull up the platform, because I think the best way to make this real is to actually show you what it looks like in practice. So what you're looking at now is CloudFuze Manage. So this is the console your IT team would log into every day. And I want to walk you through it the same way we walk through the slides, starting with governance, because that's the problem that brought us all here today, right? So the first thing you'll notice is that we don't make you go hunting. The moment you land here, you get a health snapshot of your environment, right? Any overshared files that are being flagged, any permissions that you need your attention, right? We highlight the active risks, the sensitivity content, your Copilot readiness score. So your governance score is the single most important metric on the screen. So it tells you where you are right now, today, whether your environment is safe to deploy Copilot into or not. So most organizations we onboard to start around 50 or 60, right, in their 50s or 60s. So the goal is to get you into high 80s, and we'll show you exactly how we can do that. So let me move on to the discover and audit phase like we talked during the slides, right? So here we're doing a deep scan of your entire M365 environment, right? All your SharePoint, your OneDrive for all your users. So when you go ahead and see the user content, you'll be able to see every single file that is accessible to more people than it should be, right? You could check that we label the content sensitivity based on if you have given them a read access or a write access, right? If there's an external share that is not supposed, so let's say the documents are a private folder, you're not supposed to be sharing it with external people, right? So everything, every such thing is flagged. And you remember what the CIO said. So the governance is a real challenge for them. So where the challenge becomes visible, you can see exactly which documents are overshared, like I said, which external links are still alive, and which folders have broken inheritance. So you could see if there are more duplicate files there, if the same kind of file, let's say one file is not overshared, but the same duplicate file is overshared, you're essentially accessing the same data again. So it's essential to get that information as well. And the stat on our slide said 73% of enterprises have overshared content they don't know about. So this is how you find yours, every risk before Copilot sees it. So that's the goal of this step. So we display all your content here. Now, finding the problem is step one. Fixing at scale is step two. So this is where most governance tools fall flat. So CloudFuze doesn't just show you that, so these are your overshared. So let's say you have 40,000 overshared files and we don't wish you luck there, right? So we automate that remediation process too. So you could go ahead, define policies for yourself, let's say I don't want any external sharing to be enabled for any of my sensitivity documents, right? So no external documents in HR or legal folders. So I can go ahead and set up that policy. So as and when it's done, it's flagged and it is notified to the application owner or your IT admin, right? So it's not just done on a specific file or a specific user. So these policies apply across your entire M365 tenant. And what would take your IT teams months to work through these manually gets resolved in days, right? So that's not just marketing language. So that's the operational reality that our customers see today. And critically, these aren't one-time fixes, like I said. So this enforcement process is continuous. So every new file, every new permission that was granted, every new external link that was created, it will be evaluated against your policies that are already existing, right? So it will be evaluated against them automatically, and it will be either flagged, or if you want to set up a policy to clean up all the data that was shared externally, you want to revoke the access, you could go ahead do that on at scale, right? You could revoke, you could all remove the files that were stale, that were not accessed for the last 180 or 360 days, right? So you could clean up your environment that way too. Now I want to touch on something that's become increasingly urgent, and it's the third pillar we've talked about in our slides. So this view shows you every application that your employees have connected to your Microsoft 365 tenant without any IT approval. And I want to be clear, these aren't just hypothetical risks sitting in a report somewhere, right? So these are live connections being made to your environment right now. And as AI tools proliferate, employees connect to ChatGPT plugins, or they go ahead, connect to your Zapier automation, or you have custom agents built in your Copilot. So this list is growing faster than most IT teams can track. And CloudFuze surfaces all of it. So we also classify a risk level for you based on what kind of scopes it's exposing, what kind of data it's exposing. If it's a serious threat to you, we highlight that part as well. And most teams can, like I said, you have to control before it becoming a security or a compliance issue, right? So you need to have that control to respond. So you need to have visibility into all these aspects as well. And our fourth pillar being your life cycle and workflows. So that is what makes everything sustainable. So like I mentioned before, governance can't be a project you run once a year. So it has to be embedded into your IT operations. So that means every time a new employee joins, the right access has to be provisioned automatically. When someone leaves, the licenses have to be reclaimed, right? Your SSO should be suspended. Your shared drives have to be reassigned. Your SharePoint sites owners have to be reassigned, right? So all these doesn't take minutes to complete. It takes days, it takes months. So you have to do these operations as fast as you could, because you can't risk leaving access to people who are no longer part of your organization. So these automated workflows are what takes governance from a quarterly audit exercise to a continuous living process, right? So as soon user to a Microsoft 365, you'd want to go ahead, check all the filters, right? Any conditional branching, if they're in a particular department. So I want them to have a cursor license. Then I move on. I check what role the user has, right? Based on the location he is in, I want to assign specific applications to them. So you can pre-structure all your policies, your licenses, your permissions, your groups, all that. And then you can go ahead and do the automated workflow part, right? So like I said, it should be a continuous operational process. Similarly, we have our own offboarding as well. So as and when the employee leaves the organization, the compliance part should be enabled. So we reclaim the license, archive the data, all that too, right? So now that we've looked at readiness, let me show you what happens once Copilot is actually deployed. So this is where you manage and monitor your Copilot usage across your entire organization in real time. At the top, your key numbers, right? Total users with Copilot licenses, how many are actively using it, how much you're spending, and what is your average productivity? Because everybody just gets a Copilot license, but you never know who's using what. And let me talk about the tool usage distribution too. So this tells you exactly where people are using Copilot. So this matters because if you're paying for Copilot licenses and 80% of usage is concentrated into two tools, right? So here it's just Teams and Outlook. That's where the most usage is. So that's a conversation about whether everyone needs the right license or you can read right size, right? So that's a conversation you need to have. And on the right, you could see adoption based on department. So that lagging adoption between departments, it's usually one of two things. Either those teams haven't been trained properly yet to use the tool, or they've tried it and it's not clicking for them. Either way, this view tells you whether to focus on your enablement effort or not, right? And we also have a daily usage metrics and patterns view. So are people using it more than last week? Are they trained enough to use it properly? So you can track all these metrics as well. So here now you can go back to your leadership and say a Copilot investment is working. So here's the data. So most organizations have no visibility into this. They buy Copilot licenses, like I said, and roll them out. And this Copilot Hub gives you the operational picture to actually manage the rollout like a product, not just give them the license and hope the people use it, right? So now let's moving on to the big picture. Now I focus this walkthrough on the governance because that's the conversation we're having today. But CloudFuze Manage does a lot more than what I've just shown you. On the governance side of things, we've covered content permissions, your Copilot readiness, your shadow IT, all that, right? But the platform also gives you a full SaaS application discovery across your entire organization. We integrate with hundreds of SaaS apps, not just your M365 tenant. You might be using a lot of ticketing tools, a lot of HR systems, CRM tools, ERP tools, right? So your full SaaS application is stayed in one place. So you get license management, you get information on that, who has a license, who's actually using it, and whether you're paying for seats that have gone idle or are they still active. License renewal management, your contract dates, your renewal windows, and most importantly, the usage analytics. So you can make data-driven decisions about which tools to consolidate and which to expand. So the goal is to give your IT and finance team a single source of truth for every SaaS application in your organization, not just what you've approved, but everything that is running, some things that you're not aware of. So to bring this back to where we started, the CIO in our story wasn't wrong when the focus was on migration, right? So that is critical, and we help organizations do it extremely well. But what he discovered afterward, the oversharing, the unknown applications, the permission sprawl, so that's the problem CloudFuze Manage exists to solve. And modernizing M365 isn't just about moving the data, right? It's about making sure your environment is secure, governed, and ready for the next wave, whether it's Copilot today, and you never know what kind of AI capability is coming up in next 6 months. So that's where we're here to help you build. With that said, I would like to go back to the presentation and hand it over to Anthony.
Thanks, Pranavi. That was a wonderful, amazing walkthrough and demo. Really appreciate that. I think what's important there is this isn't theoretical. This is actionable, real-time governance, and it's becoming essential for any organization moving towards AI adoption. So thank you, Pranavi. So to wrap up here, we're just going to focus on the key takeaways of the webinar today to kind of bring everything together. So kind of to reiterate, CloudFuze supports the entire enterprise lifecycle from migration, data integrity and continuity, governance and compliance, AI readiness, ongoing SaaS management. And the key takeaway is simple. Migration gets you to the cloud. Governance is what allows you to safely scale in it. To add on to what Pranavi had stated, I'm on the front lines here working with companies that are actively migrating and trying to govern their data prior to, during, and after migration to M365. And we see a whole lot of publicly shared links and data sprawl prior to migration. So we'd really, really suggest taking a look at Manage prior to any upcoming migration projects if you have those in queue. In closing for today, thank you for joining us today. If you're currently planning a migration, in the middle of one, thinking about how to operationalize your Microsoft 365 environment post-migration, continue to optimize and enhance your M365 governance. We'd love to continue the conversation after the webinar. From here, we're going to open it up for questions. Thanks, everyone. Ella, I think you're on mute. I can't hear you.
You know what? Thank you, Anthony. I totally forgot to unmute myself. Well, everyone, thank you so much for watching us. Everyone watching on the live stream, thank you so much for joining us. We'll be wrapping up this stream shortly. Secure your spot at the Microsoft 365 Community Conference taking place April 21st to 23rd in Orlando to rub elbows with Ravi, Pranavi, and Anthony. Standard discounted pricing ends soon, so to register, scan the QR code that's showing on your screen now, or you may head to nextgen365events.com to register and use the discount code S150 to save $150 on your registration. Apply for the Microsoft 365 Community Grant Program by scanning the QR code on your screen or by visiting change3e.com/grants, built for small businesses and nonprofits to help you accelerate your AI journey with hands-on learning, expert guidance, and financial support to attend M365 Con 26. If you'd like to participate in the live Q&A with Pranavi, Ravi, and Anthony, please be sure that you joined using the link in your calendar invite. Bye for now.